Given the current state of the Connecticut economy and the environment that we have here, without debating all the reasons why we are where we are, it sounds like he's saying that really the wave of the future is more toward being an entrepreneur and ensuring your success than perhaps going and working for a major corporation. Is that essentially what your emphasis is going to be?
Well, of course, as the School of Business, we train students to do both.
Right.
I mean, some want to pursue corporate careers, and they do very well. But I think if you go back to Drew's point about the state's economy, the larger corporations are having a tendency to leave, and I don't see any new ones that are coming to replace them. So if we want our economy to be robust, we are going to have to create those jobs ourselves. And we at the School of Business see it as central to our mission as an economic development mission to kind of help the economy create jobs and grow. And
so, Drew, let me ask you a question, Ken. Political science majors aside, let's talk about the government and business schools, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, it used to be at one time, I almost caught myself, used to be at one time that the highest paying jobs were not in government.
I think that is generally the case.
The reason
yes.
why people went into government was because of the fringe benefits, quite frankly.
Uh-huh.
But over the period of the last 2 decades, what's happened is the low salary rate the government had with the high fringe benefits, what they are currently paying has come up like this.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's equal to both. I would argue the case that it's probably a good idea for good business schools to provide for the state of Connecticut government people who think like business people to get this whole mess that we have under control. So what percentage of your business students go into the government?
I honestly have absolutely no idea. I don't think it's a large amount, Jim. I mean, to be honest.
Actually, I've been here a little bit longer. We have a couple. We were here a couple of years ago, and we had a young man, Nick Alimo, here, and he's been very active with the government. There's a handful of others that I don't, I'm having a senior moment. I don't remember a name, but somebody is a selectman up in the Torrington area. So I think we're actually making some contribution in that regard. Young people are coming and saying, yeah, we have to do some things different to enable business here, and still not be just the Wild West. I mean, I think there's a middle ground to be struck there. And right now we've got a lot of a heavy burden on people starting businesses here.
Do you, just out of curiosity, Jess, I mean, you being successful, when you step back and you look at the state of Connecticut and its current state of affairs, for want of a better word, given the business environment and climate, what do you see? What do you hear?
I mean, I think big businesses are going to continue to leave the state. Just because there's not enough incentives for them to stay. And, to add on to what he said, if we don't have those entrepreneurs to start new businesses and provide people with jobs, I think people are going to move out of the state as well to follow the work. I mean, that's just my personal opinion.
Well, they are moving out of the state.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's going to continue.
Losing population here.
Well, I think one of the things that message that I'd love for us to get out here is that I think a lot of businesses don't fully appreciate the power of a place like Central. When you peel back all the sort of rhetoric around GE leaving, at the end of the day, Elmo said, I can step outside
Jeff Immelt, the president of GE, right.
I can step outside my door in Cambridge and throw a rock and hit a PhD.
Right.
I mean, he didn't say that, but it was essentially that, right? And I think we produce really high quality students who are prepared to go to work and do good work, and in many instances innovative work. And I think that we're underappreciated in the state. I think if you look at downtown Hartford and you take a little 20-mile radius, there's 6 colleges there. It's not Boston density, but there's a lot of higher education here, and frankly a lot of really talented people who want to stay here, like our students want to stay here.
Right, exactly.
And that is an important role of the university, is to be part of that ecosystem of innovation and creativity and job creation. So we are doing a very important
Well, the reality of it is, if we continue to have a net out-migration of our youngest, best, and brightest, somebody's got to be around to create the jobs or go to the jobs in order for people like us to be able to retire. Because the reality of it is, if they're not creating businesses and hiring people and paying taxes, we're in a world of hurt. And the reality of it is, it's interesting, it is really interesting, Ken, that if you look at both spectrums of the demographics, not only are younger people leaving, and I would submit a lot of times for the wrong reason, there's not enough jobs, they can't find affordable places to live, et cetera, et cetera. When you go to the other end of the spectrum, I mean, I have a place in Florida, and I know a lot of people who have moved out of Connecticut, and quite frankly, at the older end of the spectrum, right? Yeah. Especially from Fairfield County, where the tax collections have gone down 40%, when they decide to leave here because they don't want to pay the taxation anymore, or they feel it's not a very friendly climate, they're taking all that with them down there. And older people, starting with North Carolina all the way down to Florida, they talk to you about what it costs to live down there, and it's about 30 to 35% less. And you know what? After working 40 years of your life, the last thing you want is high taxation. So the bottom line to what you're saying here is that you're looking for people like Jess and Mark to stay in Connecticut to generate the business that keeps the rest of the economy healthy. Yeah, so absolutely. That leads us to entrepreneur, the entrepreneur, right? So we've tied in the economy and economic development, entrepreneurship, et cetera. There's a proposal that you have on the table. We've talked about entrepreneurship. I think I want to talk about this part later, but give me a brief overview because there's an emphasis here in Central in the business school area about the Entrepreneur Center, right? Tell me a little bit about that.
So what we're looking at, we have a major in entrepreneurship and minors, and so students can take courses in that, but we also have co-curricular or extracurricular activities. And what we're looking at is saying we could do so much more if we had a formal center with a little bit of help. So for example, this year we have a volunteer who's come as an entrepreneur in residence. Mike Nicastro, one of our alums, he was the head of the Bristol Chamber for a long time, serial entrepreneur.
Sort of like an executive in residence?
Yep.
Okay.
And you know, he has just made it, we've got more students now engaged, we've got them at a higher level. He's helping students find resources. He can take them around, and he has more time than I do, where I also have to teach and serve on 100 committees and one thing and another. So what we're looking at is saying if we could bring a modest amount of additional resources to Central, we could create more programs. For example, we'd like to have an emphasis on these Main Street businesses. That's kind of who our students are. A lot of them, they're mothers and fathers, aunts and uncles have, you know, the businesses up and down Main Street across the state. We didn't mention this in the economic development issue, but these older folks leaving, a lot of them own businesses. In fact, 47% of the current privately held businesses are owned by people who are over 55.
There you go, and there may be a lot of family businesses in there too.
Yeah, and a lot of times, unfortunately, the family businesses don't want to. You know, the younger generation doesn't want the business.
Right.
You know, so we got to. That might be a way bigger problem than GE leaving. You know, because a lot of the businesses, when they change hands, they fail. Historically, it's been between 50 and 90%. So we've got the potential for some really bad economic situation on Main Street. So what we think we can do is address that through internships that are directed towards perhaps apprenticeships, towards people who, like Mark or Jessica, who could buy existing businesses, save those businesses and jobs, and maybe even grow them.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So the more we can act with modest additional resources to engage our student body in preparing for business ownership on Main Street, but also working with the current business owners, because that's how we prepare them, is that bridge between industry and our business and the business school, then we think that we can really ameliorate some of the damage that's coming down the road.
Now, where is that now? I mean, is that, you haven't started this center yet, have you?
Correct. We've got a proposal out.
We have a proposal out, and we think this is critically important. I really wanted to piggyback on what Drew was saying about Main Street. The state of Connecticut actually provides quite a bit of support for entrepreneurship, but there's been to date a very strong focus on sort of high tech, biotech, that sort of thing.
Absolutely.
And there's nothing wrong with that. But ultimately, that's not where most of the job creation is going to be, right? I mean, those companies, even if they're very successful, do not create a lot of jobs. The jobs come from Main Street businesses.